This line graph maps a hypothetical asset price dropping into a buy zone. An algorithmic tracking system detects the setup, and we execute an entry at the exact bottom tick. It is a mathematically flawless entry. But that precision is wasted if the back-end trade management relies on a rigid, static threshold to protect the capital payload. The traditional retail approach to managing risk is to drop a fixed, immovable trailing stop right beneath the entry. This is usually based on an arbitrary tick count or a set dollar amount that the trader decides they are willing to lose. The reality of the market, however, is intra-bar volatility. The market has a natural breathing cycle, full of minor downward fluctuations. These micro-rotations easily pierce tight static lines, resulting in an immediate exit. This creates a mechanical failure. The operator is ejected from the position right before the market initiates a massive, profitable upward sprint. The direction was perfectly calculated, but the risk tracking lacked the intelligence to stay in the move. Applying static risk metrics to a dynamic environment increases the probability of these premature ejections. When fixed rules clash with fluid price action, the result is often a series of small, avoidable losses that offset the gains of high-probability entries. Fixed trailing fails because it imposes human biological and financial desires onto a fluid order book. The market does not care about round numbers or an operator's individual bank account. It will shatter any rigid grid placed in its path. The actual baseline of the market operates strictly on continuous volatility variance. The speed and size of orders are constantly shifting the true standard deviation of the asset. When an asset enters a state of high torque expansion, when aggressive institutional volume floods the book, the background noise and micro-rotations of the market naturally widen. A static stop-loss is completely blind to this shifting standard deviation. It sits anchored to an arbitrary figure, failing to account for the literal heat of the engine. To survive this, operators must surrender manual control. Instead of clicking and dragging lines based on anxiety, you have to deploy dynamic algorithmic defenses that track the market's actual pulse. We do this by tracking the average true range, or ATR. This is a real-time calculation used to measure the true standard deviation and structural noise of the most recent price action. Mapping risk parameters to this real-time ATR baseline creates an adaptive envelope. This ensures that the distance of the stop-loss is dictated by the current variance of the asset, providing a mathematical buffer against normal market noise. Our risk trailing matrix manages trades. An asset first enters state 1, high torque expansion. Beneath the price, a dynamic volatility cushion analyzes the true range. As heavy institutional size funds a rapid linear vector, the cushion intentionally expands outward, moving away from active price action. The system recognizes the heavy volume, expanding the gap to give the asset maximum breathing room. This avoids whipouts from the widening structural noise that accompanies high-velocity moves. The operational rule here is to hold the line. You must trust the expansion velocity and resist the fear-based urge to manually pull your stop-loss tight just to protect small profits. During peak expansion, widening the risk parameter ensures the capital payload stays attached to the macro move, as the widening volatility makes tight stops statistically likely to fail. Eventually, that expansion hits a wall. We enter the first critical transition phase, as institutional programs begin shutting down at their premium target zones. To detect this shift, we use a momentum histogram tracking internal velocity. The tall, bright cyan bars indicate strong forward momentum, but as velocity dies, the bars collapse in height and shift to dark blue, visually warning the system that the current vector is exhausting. The volatility cushion's automated response to this decay is immediate. It ceases all outward expansion. Mechanically, the trailing baseline flattens out. It locks into a horizontal shelf directly underneath the stalling price action, refusing to give up any more ground as the trend matures. This horizontal lock secures the open profit baseline. The moment forward momentum stops, the algorithm steps in to protect the accrued premium. The reality of the post-decay order book is hazardous. The directional centrifuge turns off, and market makers shift into tight, unpredictable rotational chop. This is where retail traders take severe damage. They will sit through a dead session, stubbornly waiting for a target, watching thousands of dollars in open profit slowly evaporate. To counter this, the telemetry system enters market state 3, squeeze compression. The momentum histogram is completely flat and neutral. The algorithm responds aggressively. The cushion undergoes hyper-tightening, sliding up to the maximum mathematical boundary, acting like an iron vice against the price bars. The behavioral rule for operators in this state is simple. Do not add contract payloads and prepare for an immediate exit. By surgically squeezing the baseline against the price, the system secures the maximum amount of meat on the bone right before market makers drop the floor. Every trend lifecycle ends with a sudden, violent reversal out of that consolidation phase. When the floor finally drops, we enter market state 4, structural level breach. The technical trigger is precise. An active price bar cleanly intersects and closes beyond the hyper-tightened volatility cloud. At that exact coordinate, the position is automatically closed. The mathematical validation of the trend vector has experienced an absolute break. There is no longer any statistical reason to remain in the position. Relying on automated execution at this coordinate prevents catastrophic bleed, entirely bypassing human hesitation or the hope that the price might return. Looking at the entire life cycle of the trade, the volatility cushion functions as an adaptive corridor. It stays wide at the bottom during the initial run to protect fluctuations. Operators no longer need to stare at unrealized P&L windows or sweat over every minor fluctuation. The risk architecture is hard-coded into the asset's actual standard deviation. You transition from an emotional gambler trying to predict the future into a clinical manager overseeing a system. Your remaining responsibilities are simple. Execute the structural entry and verify that the dynamic cushion has successfully initialized. From there, you must fight the ego-driven urge to manually micromanage an automated order book mid-trade. When the structural breach finally occurs, you accept the automated execution with complete detachment. It is a calculated conclusion, not a personal failure. To survive the market, lock in your trailing protocols, trust the volatility math, and let the machine trail the machine to safely extract capital.